After 7 more races, Ricciardo's nightmare McLaren stint will finally come to an end. On paper, his move to the Surrey-based outfit appeared to be a good one, and a partnership with Lando Norris was something fans were looking forward to seeing. Unfortunately for the Honey Badger, his young teammate completely outperformed him. The chasm between them has grown so wide in the last year and a half that McLaren has decided to fire him despite the fact that he still has a year left on his contract. Oscar Piastri, Ricciardo's compatriot, will take his place on the team. However, the 33-year-old's F1 future remains uncertain for the time being. According to rumours, he's been linked to both Alpine and Haas, with both team executives also confirming that they had discussions with Ricciardo in recent weeks. But if things don't go his way, fans may not see Ricciardo on the grid at all next year. Ricciardo has not stated anything about his future plans. He has consistently claimed that he's not done with F1 and intends to return to the sport as soon as possible. Even though he wants to stay in F1, he recognises that there aren't that many opportunities available. Ahead of the Dutch Grand Prix, the Perth-born driver admitted that he will treat the remaining races this season as his last ever in F1. This was a cryptic hint towards a future F1 grid that did not include Ricciardo. We didn't hear anything from Ricciardo about his 2023 plans since then. However, cameras may have caught him accidentally revealing his future to the world while speaking with Red Bull driver Sergio Perez. They were walking in the Zandvoort pit lane when Ricciardo mentioned something about taking a year off and then returning in 2024. This infuriated many fans on social media, who are distraught at the prospect of Ricciardo not competing in Formula 1 next year. Ricciardo, of course, denies any final decisions have been made and will no doubt prefer to focus on racing rather than silly season speculation. The Australian driver continues to believe in himself and has gone to great lengths to prove that he belongs in the sport. Ricciardo addressed his situation in a media interview at the end of August, sending a message of hope to his fans. Picking myself up is something I feel I'm very capable of doing. This is certainly a big moment in time for my career, but even if things aren't always highlighted, you're always going through challenges and you always have to pick yourself up. I remember Spa in 2008 when I was racing Formula Renault. It was the Saturday night before the race on Sunday and I got a real pep talk. It was just one of those moments in my career. I still hadn't yet made it, but I really had to put my head in the game and start making it happen. No one has a perfect career, and I've learned to deal with it over time. This has been another challenge, another hurdle, but I simply see it as if I want to pick myself up, I will. That fire, that belief is still in me, so if I want to make that choice, I can. Obviously, I don't have every option on the grid, it's not like I can race wherever I want, but from a self-worth point of view, absolutely I will recover from this. Despite ending the team's long win drought with a victory in last year's Italian Grand Prix, Ricciardo admits that his McLaren tenure has not gone as planned. He admitted that as a team, they just didn't get it right, but he also conceded that there had been too many difficult weekends since he joined the team. But given how hard he worked to make the team a success, he believes he will be able to leave with his head held high at the end of the year. It's obviously not the nicest feeling, but I look back on it and I can hold my head high in terms of applying myself and trying to make it work, trying to put everything in. Sometimes you just have to accept that, okay, I tried, it didn't necessarily work out, but from that point of view, I don't look back in terms of, oh man, I was slacking off. I'm proud of the way that we tried to make it happen and persist through it, but some things you just say they're not meant to be. Perhaps no race could sum up his determination, but ultimately lack of faith in the car than last week's Singapore Grand Prix. On paper, Daniel Ricciardo's first top 5 finish in his final season as a McLaren Formula 1 driver looked promising. After all, the papaya-coloured machine is no slouch. Finishing 5th from 16th on the grid on a street circuit where passing was nearly impossible, however, was an eye-opener. But it wasn't earned by Ricciardo's trademark roguish creative overtaking. He wasn't going to pretend that this was a particularly impressive drive. It was a well-deserved and cleverly earned result, however, and one in which Ricciardo's cautious approach, owing to the steady erosion of his confidence as a result of his failed McLaren stint, may have resulted in a better outcome than he would have achieved in a more daring mindset. Ricciardo qualified 11 positions behind teammate Lando Norris, gaining one when George Russell was demoted to a pit lane start. That McLaren Q1 exit versus Q3 glory comparison seemingly fit the ongoing 2022 intra-team narrative, but appearances can be a little deceptive. In the drying Q1, they'd only been 2 places and 0.3 of a second apart, just on opposite sides of the cutoff. Norris's car had received a significant upgrade from McLaren. Ricciardo's did not. Ricciardo moved up to 13th after a strong first lap. Kevin Magnussen's wing damage, Yuki Tsunoda's first mistake, and Fernando Alonso's retirement all helped him get into the point. points. After initially pushing Lance Stroll, Ricciardo began to lose contact with the Aston Martin as the track dried, admitting that he struggled a little more in that inter-slick condition as he had in qualifying. The ability to pit for slicks during the safety car period caused by Tsunoda's crash transformed his result from decent to brilliant. Ricciardo was running 10 to 15 seconds behind the two Aston Martins and Pierre Gasly's AlphaTauri ahead when everyone was still on intermediates, and he was falling further behind. Ricciardo passed all three by staying out longer on the inters and then making a cheap pit stop while the field was at a safety car speed. Errors by Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen ensured 5th place in the end. The really interesting part was the thought process Ricciardo and McLaren engineer Tom Stallard went through to decide to stay out for that long. "I think we were patient and mature in not jumping for the slicks," said Ricciardo. "It was very tempting. I think as well when you're just outside the points, it's very tempting to be a hero and try to make something happen. But we had, let's say, the right conversations, and I said as much as I want to be a bit of a hero, it didn't feel right." And then as George Russell and then Pierre went on slicks, it sounded like it took a long time for them, so let's just keep going. As his conversation with the media on Sunday night progressed, Ricciardo revealed more and more about his back and forth with Stallard. He attributed it to maturity, described it as the drive of a 33-year-old. However, it appeared that another factor was also at work. It was clear and not surprising given his previous 2 seasons that he was being cautious. Not uncertain, but not thinking or driving with the swagger of someone who can afford to gamble. When Ricciardo took soft tyres for the restart while everyone was on mediums, it reminded us of those Red Bull era races, where he'd grab a softer compound than everyone else and then mount a stunning late charge to a stunning victory. But the reasoning was also telling. The compound choice wasn't so much about anticipating who he could overtake as it was about ensuring that he could defend against the faster cars he'd just taken some positions from. The nature of this drive was less lick the stamp and send it, and more of a mature and conservative game of chess in which he chose moves that would allow him to gain positions without risking it, something very atypical for a driver like Ricciardo to do. It only serves to highlight how much his abysmal 2 seasons at McLaren have harmed his confidence, and no points finishes can hide that fact, as the Australian confirmed in his post-race interview. "I'm certainly in a position where I would take it any way I could. I do think we owned a big chunk of it, but I'm not going to apologise for fortune in a race situation, because I feel like things haven't always really worked out for us this year, so I'm very happy to execute a clean race and pick up some points. It helps, every bit helps. In the year it's been with the on-track and off-track stuff, you really just take all the positives you can, even just simple ones. I've had top 5s before, so it's not like I'm going to go and spray champagne tonight, but just knowing that I'm going to walk back into team hospitality, everyone's going to have a smile, and there's going to be hugs and high fives, just to feel some really nice positivity for once." What are your thoughts on Daniel Ricciardo's performance in Singapore? Was it a bittersweet moment given how he got to 5th place? Or are the points all that matters? What do you think of his F1 future? Will he take the 2023 sabbatical or actually find a team? Leave your thoughts in the comment section below, and if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, subscribe, and click on that bell icon to receive notifications of future uploads.